I'd like to call the August 16, 2011 meeting of the Buncombe County Commission to order, and I'll ask that you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
And I will have our invocation today, if you'll pray with me. God, thank you for all you give us. Thank you for the opportunity to serve others. Thank you for the public servants that are no longer with us, including Captain Jeff Bowen and John Mark Crow. Help their families find comfort in their change, in their loss. Help our community heal from the grief we feel from the passing of these two fine young men. God, thank you for the mountains, the Blue Ridge Parkway, the weather, the people. All these things make us a great place to live and a great place to retire, to work, to grow up, to find prosperity, to find joy, to find happiness, and to better serve other people that don't have as much as we do. God, take care of folks that are under financial stress, folks that have lost their jobs, the people that are having a difficult time. Replace their worry with understanding and with the opportunity to be prosperous and return back to where you would have them to be. God, thank you for this board. There's such good people up here. It's a pleasure to serve with them. Thank you for our staff and all the hard work they put in. Give us wisdom to do the right things that will please you. And thank you for the people we serve. We are so fortunate to live in a place that has a diversity and has a tolerance and has a common community and a joy in doing day-to-day things in such a pretty place. Amen. In accordance with the Board of Ethics, the Code of Ethics adopted by the board, it's the duty of every board member to avoid the actual and apparent appearance of conflict. Does any board member know of any known or potential appearance of conflict of interest in any matter coming before the board today?
No, sir.
If not, is there a motion to follow the agenda as presented?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Peterson, a second by Commissioner Bailey. Any further discussion? All those in favor of following the agenda as printed, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We will follow the agenda as proposed. I think we've established there is no county manager's report tonight, I believe. So our first order of business will be Superintendent of the Blue Ridge Parkway, Mr. Phil Francis. He will update us on a planning study that's going on, and we have a resolution that the board will consider at the close of his discussion about possibly creating an overlook for the city of Asheville to show off our beautiful downtown area from accessible from the Blue Ridge Parkway. Superintendent Francis, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's great to be here, as always. Good to see the board. We've certainly enjoyed a wonderful relationship with Buncombe County, and we look forward to many more years of a good relationship with the county. You know, the Parkway just celebrated its 75th anniversary last year, and you guys played an important role in that. And we're so blessed, as you mentioned, to have the Blue Ridge Parkway and so many wonderful communities along its 469-mile length. We have many issues, and we're attempting to address those issues through our planning process, including a general management plan, which should be finished later this year. In fact, as I've been told, it's on its way to the printers. We hope to schedule public meetings sometime this fall. We're also working on a developed area management plan at the Moses Cone Estate up in the Boone Blowing Rock area. We're going to have public meetings beginning September 1st and 2nd up in Roanoke County to look at how we might connect with the Roanoke County trail system and to address parking issues and recreational issues that affect both the county and the parkway. Once we finish these planning efforts, and let me mention that those three efforts have taken a considerable amount of time, we plan to begin a similar planning effort as part of your ongoing work to develop greenways in this region, to look at the Blue Ridge Parkway and parking issues and overlook issues and recreational issues through the Asheville and Buncombe County corridor. And so after having read your resolution, I must say that we're in total agreement with that. We want to consider such an overlook. We think one may be possible. There aren't many places on the parkway where you can actually see the downtown area, but there is at least one, and as identified by a map which I have before me. And as you may note, as you drive down after going up to the Pisgah, which I know you must do regularly, and have a fine dinner, on your way back down the mountain, you may recall where you can see the Biltmore Estate. If you were to look toward Asheville, you'll note at that place, that is about the only place, it may be the only place, where you can see Asheville City from the Blue Ridge Parkway, according to our analysis and by driving up and down the parkway. We thought there might be two. We think there's now one. But we have to go through a planning process to receive public input. We have to look at the impacts to both the natural and cultural resources. We have to consider our operational capacity to build and maintain such an overlook. And should we decide to do so, after receiving public input and going through the decision process, we would certainly look to the Commission to be a partner in this effort. So I'll be happy to entertain any questions. It's an exciting idea. It's certainly something that I think will be enjoyed by thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. And we certainly appreciate the chairman for giving us a call and wanting to talk about this idea.
Mr. Francis, I have a question. Could you tell us about Roanoke? I think there's an overlook there that was built after the original parkway was set. Could you kind of?
I don't know the details of that, but you're right. There is an overlook there that looks down upon the city. It's interesting that at that particular location you can also see Poor Mountain, which is now a location for maybe as many as 16 or 20 huge wind turbines, about 6 miles away. But there is an overlook there. So having an overlook here in Asheville is certainly not a new precedent-setting move, because one does exist. We have about 255 paved overlooks and about 800 vistas along the length of the parkway. And it's a real challenge for our maintenance staff. We've lost about a third of our maintenance staff to maintain that many. We're looking at volunteer programs where we may have an Adopt and Overlook program. Our Friends of the Blue Ridge Parkway is organizing such an effort. But there's many considerations that would have to be made as we move through this process.
Superintendent, in the resolution it states that this board, meeting our board, would hereby request and support the construction of an overlook. Can you explain when you request and support, what type of support, and are you looking for monetary support from us?
Well, there's only one other way, a couple other ways really, that we could obtain monetary support. One would be through donations of friends groups, such as the Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation. Of course, federal appropriations would be required otherwise. Or we could enter into a partnership arrangement with, as we've done with other counties and communities along the parkway, to accomplish needed projects. For example, if we look at Haywood County, just to our south, the TDA there donated $15,000 a year for several years to ensure that our vistas in their county were being cleared, recognizing that the economic benefit to their counties is significantly more than the amount of money that they were donating to the Blue Ridge Parkway to keep those vistas clear and functioning. So during our 75th anniversary, other counties actually stepped up to the plate. Asheville, Roanoke County, other counties up in the West Jefferson area also contributed funds, making an investment to the economic return that tourism brings to our wonderful mountain region.
I think maybe a little known fact is that Commissioner Bailey has some experience on the Blue Ridge Parkway as a ranger in another life.
I remember that, yes.
In another life.
In another line. Back in the good days, right?
In the great days. Yeah.
So he knows firsthand what we have up there, as we all do. Any other questions? I think the intent of the resolution is to support the concept, and there's you have a lot of rules you have to follow. But someone has to get suggested, I think, to kind of and show interest, and I think that's something you'll be looking for from other people to say, well, what's the interest level? Is this something that has community support?
Well, I think certainly because of the recommendation in your resolution, it will be one of the options we would certainly consider as we move through our planning process.
And I think also in the resolution, there is a suggestion, and I think we talked a little bit about the Mountain to Sea Trail, while a great asset for our community, also created some parking issues that have had a lot of unauthorized parking along the parkway, and maybe if that could...
That's correct. And what really began this was in Roanoke, we had, and this is a funny story, but we had a fellow who created a trail from his home property to the parkway, and we eradicated that trail, and he disagreed with us and recreated the trail, and we eradicated the trail. And it got to the point that we were going to issue a citation to this gentleman for his good work. But it came to me that maybe there was more than one occurrence, and we discovered there are some 500 situations very much like that one. And there's a reason why that occurs. And we wanted to explore those reasons to see if there's something we might do through the planning process that would address parking, would address access, that might be a win-win for the county, the community, the people who live in the community, and the parkway to address that need. Not unlike what you see on many places where you don't put the sidewalks in before you see where people want to walk. Same kind of theory. So we want to do the same thing here in Asheville, in the Buncombe County area. People are parking there for a reason. They're parking there because of access to the Mountains to Sea Trail. And we want to see what makes the most sense to address that parking issue and also to provide access while at the same time fulfilling our fundamental mission, which is to protect the natural and cultural resources and the wildlife, and in such a way and such means is to leave them unimpaired for future generations. And I certainly hope that Mr. Bailey remembers those words from his seasonal days. So it's still true today, almost 95 years after they were first coined.
He was a ranger 95 years ago.
Is that right?
Oh, my word, Ray. I'm surprised.
All righty. Are there any other...
Get me later.
But I must say, while I've got Mr. Bailey before me, that my mother wishes you well. Jean Francis, who
Yes.
she worked at Cleveland Community College.
Absolutely.
I told her I was going to see you today, and she
Good.
asked me to say hello to you.
Right. Fine lady.
All righty. Any other questions? Again, this is a support and request and support the construction, showcasing downtown Asheville along the Blue Ridge Parkway as it passes through Buncombe, and we're pledging our cooperation and participation as the process moves along as much as we can.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
I would just thank you, Chairman Gant, for your vision of this and leadership and groundwork to get us to this point. And I think it's a grand idea, and hope it unfolds. We'll see.
Yeah. We look forward to working with you.
Okay.
Thank you for having me come.
Are there any, I think we said we would take a question from the public. Any public questions? Mr. Yeldon?
what I was going to tell him in the corner, and I went back there and talked to him about it anyway. How many of you know the history of the Parkway? Why is it there? It was bought by timber companies in Clearcut, and the land was there. In the original road, you had views for miles and miles and miles. And I'm not 95 years old, Ray, but I can remember, you can too, when you drive the Parkway, you could see out all along there. You can't anymore because we have a philosophy that trees never replenish themselves. And I was just talking with them about the other overlooks they've got. How many of them can you see out of? Very few. Some of it's private property. Others, it's property they have, but they don't have the staff to do it. So I would like to see, in your future vision, David, see if we can't do something in this county to recruit volunteers to take over and adopt one of those, or find the landowner and talk to the landowner and see if they would not be willing to have their trees harvested so you could see out. Because I think that would do a lot of good. And for the parkway, the pull-off that he's got proposed, I would like to publicly state, let's see how serious the Biltmore State is about preserving nature since they established the School of Forestry. And I think since you're going to be looking at the Biltmore House, they ought to contribute to that overlook, because they would get the same return that Haywood did.
Thank you, Mr. Yelton. Any other comments? If not, is there a motion?
Move to pass a resolution in support of the...
Second.
Been a motion by Vice Chair Stanley, a second by Commissioner Bailey. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The resolution carries 5-0, and Superintendent will look forward to working with you as we move along the process.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your good work.
Good to see
And your good work on the Smoky Mountain Park before you did Blue Ridge Parkway.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next up, you have some good laughs up here. Okay. Next up is a resolution directing the Board of Education, or Board of Elections, to conduct an advisory referendum on the 1/4% sales and tax use and tax in accordance with NC 105-539. I think we're going to have Mr. Frew talk. Let's see. Oh, Dr. Dunn.
537.
Excuse me. 105-537, and we have Dr. Hank Dunn from AB Tech to talk about this resolution and tell us how we're doing.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Dunn, good to see you.
Good to see you guys again, too. Good afternoon. Well, we are busy out there talking about this resolution. Things are interesting. What we're finding is that when you say the word tax, initially, it sort of flies in people's face. And the word tax has almost gotten to be a 4-letter word now instead of a 3-letter word. But when you begin to peel the onion skin back, and we've talked with individuals and groups and people all over Buncombe County, when they understand the need for this tax to be given to AB Tech for us to renovate and improve our facilities, then the layers come off very easily. And when they understand that we don't have many other ways to do this, we can't raise our own tuition, we can't save our state dollars, we can't save money because what we do save goes back. We haven't found our Bill Gates. We have very generous donors, but no one who's given us 10 or 20 or 50 million at a shot now. And we keep asking if you know them to please let us know, because we will go check on them. But what we're finding is great support for the local community college in this environment when the economy is so up and down. And last week or so, when you had 4 days of the Dow changing by 4, the uncertainty and the fear is palpable out there. But what happens is when we begin to talk about AB Tech having been there for 52 years, going to be here for another 152 years, then people begin to understand this is really an investment in our community, and they understand that. And we've talked to them about the things that we talk with you about. We've talked about the amount of money that we wanted to raise, and that money is to help us with critical infrastructure needs on campus, upfits, fixes, sidewalks, parking lots, HVAC issues, and yes, there's a new building in there as well. But the majority of this is information that has to do with our infrastructure. We are not taking trips to Europe. We're not hiring 10,000 new people. We're investing in our community and the buildings that will be here for a long, long time. Someone called to our attention, Ray, you'd understand this. The folks who are using our building this year, the seniors who are graduating and coming to AB Tech this year, were the ones who had the initial bond by the state bond issue back in 1992. And so they're the beneficiaries of somebody deciding, I'm going to invest in the future, and 18 years later, those folks are getting the beneficiary of that. The folks who invest this year and give this advisory referendum are going to vote for themselves for this year, but also for the people coming down. This is a tax that we've been talking about extensively in the community. We've talked with the finance area and with Wanda as well. This is something we want to sunset. There's about $129 million that we're trying to raise. It is for critical buildings. It doesn't build all the buildings we need. In fact, as we got into it and we were trying to incorporate some of the costs of operations so we don't have to come back here one day or we don't have to find them, we really found out that we couldn't build everything we wanted to build based on the costs we have. So we've eliminated 3 buildings that we would have told you about early on, and I'll mention those 3 to you. There were buildings that were coming further down the pike anyway, but right now we took off the health and wellness building. It did not have enough money to get there. We took off the extension or the enlargement of the administration building, although it's needed, and we took off a larger classroom building because it was further down the road anyway. But with all that, we can build those big things we need now. We can borrow some funding. This does expire. It would sunset in 2029, and it would be gone in 2029. But the community would have invested in itself. It would have major infrastructure improvements. It would let us add programs and services that lead to new jobs and create new jobs. And people ask me all the time, well, Hank, how's that possible that you're creating new jobs? Well, one, our health building is a big thing for us. It's not the only thing. We have 6 new programs that we would like to add. We don't have the space to add those programs now. We have additional programs that have to do with other types of programs that building a new building would free up for us. But in addition, it's really an economic incentive now. There is no better time to build or repair than when the economy's down. We understand that the construction prices coming in can be as much as 25 or 30% lower than they have been. So we're going to actually, we think, save some money in building this process. And although we are a public agency and we can't guarantee that it will be only Buncombe County residents who get those jobs, in the process of building and repairing our facilities, we need surveyors and electricians and carpenters and construction workers. And those things give jobs now. So in addition to the jobs we're creating in the long haul with additional programming, we're actually putting folks to work now as well. So we think this is an investment in the community. If I was a betting man, and I am betting right now, I guess, I think this thing will pass, and I think it'll pass well. We're getting good support in the community, and I think what we have going for us is about 2 things. One is when most people understand that the amount of this tax is so minuscule to most people. Yes, it's a tax, and I can't outrun it, and I'm not going to try to outrun it. But the average family of 4 will pay about $40 or $45 a year additional. It's 2.5 cents per $10 or 25 cents per 100. So, David, if I can pick on you, when it's your wife's anniversary and you're going to take her out to dinner somewhere special, very special, and you spend $100, if you're an average tipper, you're going to leave 15 or 20 bucks on that table because you spent 100 and you're going to be a nice tipper. If it was AB Tech you were giving the money to, it'd be 25 cents. And when people understand how minuscule amount it is, but when you wrap all those dollars together to get in what is equivalent today of $6 or $7 million, we are just finding people saying, yes, absolutely, how can we help you and how can we support it? I know there will be people out there who are ideologically against any tax, but I would say what they really are probably are against is a wasted tax. This isn't a wasted tax. This is an investment in our community. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
Any board have any questions?
Question?
Okay, we're all with you.
Appreciate the support.
We're going to get some public comment. Let me recognize Mr. Frew to tell us a little about the legalities and what we can and can't do on the ballot and what the resolution is going to be about.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I just want to point out and make sure everybody's aware that we have a resolution on this. It didn't make it into the agenda packet, so it was made available to each of you before the meeting. And just for the public, I want to run through what we have on this resolution. First, to answer David's question, he was pointing out that the language of the enabling legislation as well as the election laws require specific language for the ballot. But let me show you how we get to that on this resolution. It was back in 2007, the legislature passed an act, said a 1/4 cent county sales and use taxes that would authorize counties to levy additional sales and use taxes. So in order to levy such a local sale and use tax, the board must request and order an advisory referendum. So here we clearly hear the needs of the colleges in need of many major repairs and capital improvements. And by this resolution, the commission would like to get the voter approval for such a 1/4% sales tax increase, and to direct the Board of Elections to hold such at the referendum during the general election on November 8th of this year. This would kick in, I believe, and Donna will correct me if I'm wrong, in March or April of next year if it were to be approved. April. And so that's what we would ask is we should include with this resolution from the charge. I would recommend a sunset provision. We're looking at 17 years past the inception date, which would bring us to year 2029. So the resolution would read, be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners for the County of Buncombe as follows, that pursuant to General Statute 105-537, the Board of Commissioners directs the Board of Elections to conduct the following advisory referendum with the concurrence of the Buncombe County Board of Elections to be held on November 8th of this year in accordance with General Statute 163-287. The advisory referendum shall be in the following form. There'll be a place for a check for, and there'd be a place to check against, and it reads as follows. Local sales and use tax at the rate of 1/4%, 0.25% in addition to all other state and local sales and use taxes. And we'd also ask or recommend that the board include a number 3, that this sales and use tax would sunset in 2029, and these funds be used for these capital improvement purposes only. And if there's any questions, I'll try to.
Does that say AB Tech or at AB Tech?
Yes, sir. It can.
It should be down there in 3 or 2 or somewhere.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I agree.
So are you saying, Vice Chair, are you saying that instead of referring to the uses to spell out AB Tech in number 3?
I think it needs to be in there. Don't y'all think that?
Yes.
I do.
I do.
If you want it to pass, I think it better be in there. They'll think we're going to use it for something.
Well, yes, it'd say, and these funds be used for these capital improvements at Asheville, Buncombe Technical Community Colleges for the purposes indicated in this resolution only.
And
think
we
that's-
can't put that on the ballot, though.
No, that wouldn't be on the ballot. That's
This is just the resolution.
That's just the resolution.
But by law, we can't. We could if we would. If we could, we would.
Yeah,
But
but
we're
we
not
can't.
able legally by the General Assembly to specify AB Tech on the ballot.
Correct.
And that's a problem we're going to have to deal with in the
I don't
campaign.
understand that.
That's-
Explain that to me then.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
That's a
Why
separate.
can't we not tell them what we want to do with the money?
We can certainly make the request. to
I
the
mean,
board.
make them know that when they put for, you're going to vote for, you're going to vote against it to give the money to AB Tech College.
Actually, Mr. Vice Chair, we have worked with the State Board of Elections. This is the language that's in the enabling legislation, and they will not let us change it. We've been to State Board of Elections half dozen times to try to do exactly what you're saying, and they refuse to let us do anything other than specifically what's in the statute.
So it's a specific requirement of the enabling legislation, and if it were a general referendum, you could put the name in there,
Be far more specific, but this legislation spells out exactly what
which
is
is
on
the
the ballot.
previous cases.
And we've tried many times to get them to let us alter that, or they will not let us alter it.
Our wonderful legislation, all their wisdom,
Yes, sir.
strikes once again.
That hits it on the head, and that's as Dr. Dunn understands, that's part of his sales pitch to the community to make sure they understand what this process is for.
But in this resolution, we will spell out, as Vice Chair Stanley indicated,
Yeah.
for AB
It
Tech.
is all
and
that up
uses.
there. I just worried about what it looks like on that ballot.
I know.
Yeah.
You just can't say.
Okay, any
Can't
other
do it.
questions
Can't do
from
it.
the
You can't do it.
commission?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I don't have any questions. I'd like to compliment Dr. Dunn and his staff for going back through all of this and putting together a plan that I think is outstanding, because it's doing exactly what it's saying exactly what you've been talking about. And that's important.
We appreciate the support of the county. It's been a
Well, and we do, I guess if we could get both the resolution added to the TV when it's played back, can we do that, Madam Clerk? In other words, this resolution nobody's seen but us, I assume.
It will be as part of the agenda. I can have it online if they want to see it online.
Okay, well, I think people really need to see exactly what we're doing. And this cash flow, I think that's also, was this, okay, there, we do have a cash flow that will show what the money's going to be spent on specifically and for each year where you're going to spend it, and then showing that it cuts off. All right. Any other questions or comments from the board before we take public comment here? All right, I'll call the public hearing on this resolution to order at 5:06. Any members of the public wish to be heard? Yes, ma'am, and we'll give you 3 minutes, and if you'll give your name and where you live in the county.
I am Reverend Lisa Landis, and I know that AB Tech was to partner with URTV at a certain point in time, but from what I have heard, it was the negative comments that were coming from the county that they decided not to partner with URTV. So I am wondering why, if it is a school, does not a school research the facts before they make decisions? So I am questioning as to all of the information that they're bringing forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment? Yes, sir, Mr. Gorney.
Hi, my name is Eric Gorney. I live in Swannanoa. I just want to start off by saying I love AB Tech. My daughter goes to AB Tech. It's helping my own family. So just to start off that way. But I would like to ask the board to table the resolution just for now, just to delay it. If you don't know, I have a background in construction. I have a lot of friends in construction. I have a lot of friends all over the county. But a 1/4 cent sales tax will cost people a lot of money. And I'd like to give you just an example. A friend of mine, the reason I was mentioning construction, because that's the 2 examples that I have. A friend of mine's a cabinet maker. Last year he sat down with his accountant and they calculated how much sales tax they pay. And, you know, last year he paid $54,000 in sales tax as, you know, putting together cabinets. Because there's a lot of material that's involved with that. That doesn't include anything on labor because that's income tax. Now, if we increase the sales tax by a 1/4 cent, I know it's not a lot, but when you're talking about those volumes, it adds up quickly, and it will cost him jobs. It'll cost him. It'll be a turning decision for some people to say, okay, this is too high. We're not going to do it right now. I'd also like to give another example. I used to work in the tile industry. I know a lot of tile setters. If somebody's going to spend about $3,000 on tile to improve their bathroom, and that 1/4 cent sales tax adds up, it could be a tipping point to them saying, you know what, this is just too much, we can't do it now. Or you're going to force the people that are doing the labor to lower their price even more to get the job. And I know you guys understand that we have an underemployment problem in Buncombe County right now. And the construction industry has really been hit hard. And any type of sales tax at this moment, I'm not saying never do it, I'm just saying at this moment, our economic stability right here is just too unstable to allow a 1/4 cent sales tax, especially something that will directly affect the service industry. And as a side note, I just wanted to say that I know ethically you guys were talking about at the beginning the ethics about a conflict of interest. I mean, no offense to Commissioner Bailey, but isn't this a conflict of interest? I mean, he retired from AB Tech. They have a building named after him. I didn't know if that would be a conflict of interest. Just a question. I'm not trying to insult anybody. I just was making a statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Dunn, sure. You remember the public?
Yeah, obviously there's no good time to ask for these kind of things, but perhaps this is really a better time because in addition to the 1/4 cent, remember that the state has sunsetted the whole 1 cent tax. So actually in this year, the average Buncombe County resident will be paying 3/4 of a cent less even when this does go through, or if it does go through, hopefully it does go through. So they actually be paying a little bit less. So from that perspective, hopefully the person would be able to have a little bit more money because he's got at least 3/4 of a cent back in his pocket.
All right. Mr. Fryer?
You know, so say that. I'm not gonna get okay.
I understand. My name's Mike Fryer from Fairview. I understand what he's saying on a 1/4% tax. But, yeah, we did drop 1 cent. But if we keep going up, we're going to be as close as Tennessee at 9.2%. But they have no state tax, period. 9.2 cents. They don't send money to the state out of their paychecks. So I want our kids to have things that's good, but you got a sunset of 17 years. I'm standing here, and I'm probably not the right person to speak, but I do smoke. Out of every pack of cigarettes, county is getting about 2.5 cents on the dollar, so $5, that's 10 cents. But you all made the decision that we couldn't smoke on the property that you're drawing 2.5 cents from the county people. So I am not for the 1/4% sales tax. I want my grandson went to the school. There's other ways that you can do it besides putting it in a city election, and very few people from the county have come forward, to vote on this. This is a drop dead thing for the city. It should be put in a county election. They can make it one more year. And, when we have the election for the commissioners and all that, that's the biggest election. It does not need to be in a midstream year when it's basically just a city voting event. I understand they come up with $80,000 from somewhere, but nobody will tell us where to put the ballots out. But they will not give names of supposedly people that donated money. And that's not fair to the people of Buncombe County. They're the ones that's trying to get us to pay a 1/4% on everything that we buy. Like Mr. Gorney said, if you buy $1 million worth of stuff to build a house, then you add 1/4% to it, figure it up. It costs money. And no different than them. They wouldn't pay it because basically they're a nonprofit. But there's a different way to do this, but it's not in the city election. It's in the county election when you got 200,000 people available to vote instead of 78, and then spread it out a few places with their $80,000 for people to vote. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Fryer. Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Linda Southard. I'm from Candler. I also am asking that the election be moved into to a county election, not a city election. The name of the facility is AB Tech. It's Buncombe County, serves Buncombe County. Why should only the people in Asheville predominantly be the ones voting for this? Number one. Number two, you're right that the 1% sales tax did 1% tax did sunset with not from the state of North Carolina. However, you all are aware that our gas tax has been increased by 2.5 cents, and that has, I think, for a lot of people, is our gas is now one of the highest, if not the highest, in the South. You can go into South Carolina and you can fill up with the gas your tank for $3.12 a gallon, and up here you pay $3.60 a gallon. That's a big difference. The other question that I have for the people at AB Tech is, when these schools have to have budgets, and every year you have a budget, and the budget, I'm sure, has, and I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it has an item, repairs. And capital improvements. What's been done with that money in the past? Where has that money, was that not factored in? Was in the budget? Did somebody use that for something else? I guess my question is, where is that money that every year must appear in that budget for these specific types of things? Why, what happened to it? So those are my questions.
Thank you, Ms. Sugg. Any other public comment? Mr. Yeldon?
Well, I could repeat everything I said the last time, which included, commercials run with you, Commissioner Gant, and the mayor in it prior to they announced that they're going to have this 0.25% sales tax, but I congratulate them on stopping those commercials now that they've made the tax public. Also, I think it's amazing to me that they can afford to pay for opening up all those places for the election to occur. I mean, this tells me that they're willing to spend money to get a tax dollar, but they're not willing to spend money to save money. And furthermore, a comment was made that you can't add into your ballot what you really want to put there because of that legislation. Well, that legislation is the same party that every one of you are that put that rule in that legislation, Mr. Stanley. And I'd like to remind you that it was the opposing administration to every one that you are that lowered the 1% sales tax. So do what you're going to do, folks. You're going to pass this. I know you are. Because how many members of this commission have been on the board at AB Tech? You didn't ask that question. You should have. So it's a cut deal, died and done, and it's going to pass. But it's not going to pass once it gets to the polls as easy as you think. Because it is a bad time. It is a time that everybody is looking at where their money goes. And everybody is counting their pennies. Because some people can't afford the gas. They can't afford it. They're having to choose what they do with their car. So a 0.25% sales tax doesn't sound like a lot, but at a 0.25% of time is what's created this debt that we face in this country. So we are going to have to learn how to do on less, how to get by on less, and how to stretch the dollar. And by putting a 0.25% sales tax in effect is not stretching the dollar. It's taking dollars from the people. And if you follow Eric Going's logic, it's going to affect the lowest person on the totem pole in Buncombe County the most because they can't afford the quarter. I'm sure most of you can afford the quarter, especially with the salaries that you make. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other public comment? Mr. Rice, and then Dr. Bird. You're first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the
Thank
board.
you, sir.
Jerry Rice, I'm from Candler. Hot topic. No, I'm not in favor of this tax. I'm in favor of AB Tech. I'm in favor of what they do. I'm an alumni from there. I think I went there a couple of years, back even before Mr. Bailey was there. And that tells you a little bit. But the point is that if this is such a critical need, how did it get to be a critical need in the time that you was there, Mr. Bailey, and before? If that is a critical need, why was it not brought to the county commissioners even before then? And why wasn't it brought even before now, even with a board member sitting there now on the board of the trustees and an assistant county manager? Why was all this not even brought to the attention of the board and done something about earlier? I have some very upsetting questions, and the Board of Trustees has got them. They've had them. I gave them to them. I brought you all a bunch of questions on January of 2011, I believe it was. I could be wrong on the date. There's a whole list of questions. The county manager answered some of them. She said, I can't answer the rest of them. I sent them to the AB Tech president here, Mr. Dunn, and they ain't been answered. I've asked him again. They still haven't been answered. I've asked the board to get them some questions answered. They claim to be transparent. They're not transparent at all because I've been to their meetings. They snubbed me at the meeting and didn't even want me to participate. And now they didn't even have their transparency online. They call themselves transparency. They don't even have their board meetings materials and stuff until recently. And I walked into the first meeting, they had all kinds of laptops sitting around. They're just sitting there looking at them laptops. My concern is that if you're going to be an informed voter, you need to be informed earlier. This resolution being handed out here today ain't informing the voters on the right thing. Now, if we're going to be transparent, I'd like for you, Board of Commissioners, to direct the president here of AB Tech to answer my questions that I posed to you all and your county manager couldn't answer, and she directed me to the Dr. Dunn, and I have asked him twice, and I have sent him emails, and the Board of Trustees, they know some very important packet of material that I've gave them, and they haven't even notified me when the meeting was, and that was in the packet back 3 meetings ago, and they won't even inform me when a meeting's coming up by email just like to do the press. Now, when it comes to supporting AB Tech, I support AB Tech, but I do not support administration that is not open and transparent unless it's talking about give me some money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. I'm sure all AB Tech trustee meetings are open to the public, except for personnel and closed session matters.
Right.
And always have been, and have always had a commissioner on it as far as I remember. Is that right? Okay. Go, Mr. Dr. Bird.
Dr. Milton Bird, North Buncombe County, Big Ivy. Looking at this situation for the Board of Election to conduct advisory referendum of whether to levy a quarter sales and use tax for AB Technical College. We've got cost issues as citizens right now going on for all of us, really difficult, challenging distribution of our own resources are running out and getting short for citizens. Okay? When you look at something for a vote, especially if it's a city election versus what I'll call the county election in November 2012, you look at all of a sudden getting into what I call political bias is how the whole thing gets framed up. This is a challenge to you to reframe it with the public interest and issue in mind. AB Tech is a good institution, but there are bureaucratic processes going on here that are reflecting some of the social issues, like with local government and how the bureaucracy is going in what directions. People need to see local government redirecting the bureaucracy into sustainable and supportable positions from the people. You've got to rethink this whole approach. It cannot be add upon, add upon, add upon. We're breaking under the weight of financial cost. This is the citizens. These are the taxpayers. These are the voters. Rethink their stability first. I want to see AB Technical College stable, but I know one thing as a citizen. I got to put my life first for that stability. Adding more cost creates political resentment, and I don't care who's sitting up there. Your leadership is important to us as citizens. Your bureaucratic decisions as those effective leaders really were what you're seeing mirrored back to you. We are really questioning your judgment right now on your supportability of us. And that's what I want to really get across to you. As you talk about these things of a 0.25% sales and use tax, there's a lot of good bureaucratic justification for going in that direction. It makes sense from that mindset. But you got to come back to the people who are paying for it. It's not making sense to our mindset. We can't afford it anymore. Rethink our stability, our supportability, and lead us in those directions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bird. Any other comments tonight? Not any comments from the board. I would just say this is every citizen in Buncombe County can vote for or against this. Okay. This citizen's going to vote for it. I think it's a great thing. We need it. But I'm one citizen. And you're going to get to debate it. You're going to get to ask any questions. There will be repeated hearings and chances to raise these questions. But tonight, our resolution is whether to give them a chance to put this advisory referendum on the ballot and for us to consider it after it either passes or fails.
Mr. Chairman, if I can add one thing, the money that will be used to pay to open the precincts in the unincorporated area is being raised through private funds. It is not public dollars at all being used, but all the polls will be open.
Any comments?
And I think it's also important to know that not just the city of Asheville has an election during November, that there are elections in Woodville, Black Mountain, other municipalities, all the municipalities have elections. And I would just like to say that I'm going to sing from the same songbook that our chairman did, and that is that it states very clearly that the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners wished to hold this advisory referendum during the general election in 2011, and that is that we are going to ask the citizens to vote on this. And how important AB Tech, I'm exactly with our chairman. This citizen plans to vote for it. I see the good things that happen at AB Tech. I see the people who have jobs because of the good things that happen at AB Tech. I see the influence it has on the community. I see the folks who have jobs and the jobs that will be created through the construction and the rehabilitation of some of the buildings over there, and I plan to vote for it, and I plan to work for it because I know how important it is. But what we are saying tonight is that we are giving the citizens of Buncombe County the opportunity to decide. And I think if you're an informed voter, you will decide, you'll look at the facts for yourself, and you will decide. And I think it's very important for this, all this board is very involved in the political process, and we vote regularly. But this is an election that should not be decided by 9 or 10% of the voters who are registered to vote. This should be an election, if you have a daughter or you have a grandchild or you have a sister or a brother or someone who goes to AB Tech and has seen the benefit from it, it's your decision to get out and see these people are registered and vote. This is very, very important, and it will have a domino effect across our county. I plan to work for it. I plan to vote for it. I would like to make a motion that we adopt this resolution, Mr. Chairman.
And I'd like to second the motion.
Been a motion by Commissioner Peterson, a second by Commissioner Bailey. Are there any other comments or questions or statements? If not, we will vote on the resolution. All those in favor of the resolution as described by Mr. Frew, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. We have no other business. We do have board appointments. I think there was we have on the agenda Parks, Greenways, and Rec Advisory Board. I think there's a desire by the commission to have interviews, and we will defer those appointments until later. And I think our announcements will depend on what we've come up with on our next meeting. What will be the next meeting date, Madam Clerk?
Well, it would be September the 6th, unless you want to defer to the 13th. Next meeting would regularly be September the 6th.
Okay. Is that agreeable with everyone? That would be our next regular schedule?
The 6th is what we want, but we had discussed going to the 13th, just to have one meeting in September.
Yeah, I will be. I will not be available for either. So,
Bless your heart.
yes, I'm going to try to work on my voice. I'm going to get some surgery, see if I can fix my voice up that day.
I vote for the
I would
13th.
ask the county manager, in terms of kind of looking ahead for the business of the county, would we be able to do all our meetings in the work of the county to consolidate in that middle?
I think if we go to the 13th, we will be able to do that. We've talked to planning. We do have some rezonings, and we'll be able to notice those and have them on the 13th. When I look a little bit forward, we'll be able to get it all done if we go to the 13th.
Well, I'd be supportive of consolidating it to the 13th, if we can just make sure we do some good advertising about that to the public, that will be on the 2nd and not the 1st and 3rd.
I go with the 13th.
Did
I
we
said
say-
once. 13th.
Commissioner Bailey?
I can do it.
Okay. Then the next regular meeting of our commission will be September 13, 2011, beginning at 4:30 p.m. Commission meetings can be seen on BCTV channel Charter Cable Channel 2, ATTU Verse Channel 99, and live on buncombecounty.org during the meetings or anytime live on buncombecounty.org, the website. Next, let's see. I think Mr. Frew, you indicated earlier no need for a closed session tonight.
That's correct. No closed session today.
And our final order of business will be public comment. This is comment only, and we will answer any questions after the meeting. Any public comment tonight? Mr. Yeldon.
Well, believe it or not, I wasn't going to make any public comment, but I would like to make a suggestion. David, I think you need to study the videos of these meetings, because certain times you change your expression on your face and it's very obvious to know what your feelings are.
Not a good
You're
poker
giving it
player.
away. Come on, you're giving it away. So you need to watch that.
Guilty.
Because I can tell you where it's at. That's all right. You and I could fuss each other, Dave, and get along, and I appreciate that. But I do think that when Jerry Rice stood here today and said that he could not get an answer from AB Tech, I'm going to ask you to be sure that off the record he gets those answered. Because if you don't, David, it's going to hurt me toward what I think about you, okay?
Well, I think
Because
everyone's entitled to have their questions
I
answered
think
about this
I think you
referendum,
do, and I
Mr.
think
Dunn
he
will
needs
do
to get
that.
those answers, and I think he needs to get them within the next week, okay? And that's all I'll have in public comment.
All right, thank you, sir. And I think Dr. Dunn will certainly do that. Mr. Gorney?
I just wanted to say thanks for all being here. I did want to say that, my point wasn't against the resolution when I was speaking before. Wasn't against the resolution. It was just to table it. And mainly because elections cost a lot of money. And if people come out in the community, if you want, as Commissioner Peterson said, to have an informed voter of both sides, unfortunately, you guys are well aware of how much a TV commercial costs, how much a mailer costs, how much ad time costs, how much everything costs. I mean, you guys might get comments in the paper for free just because of your title. We're not going to. We're going to have to pay for it. So it's going to be like a double expense for us to run this election. That was why I was asking you to table the comment until a later date. Wasn't against AB Tech, wasn't against the quarter-cent sales tax. I just don't think that we can afford it right now. I also was wondering, there again, I'm confused about the whole ethic thing of conflict of interest. And there again, I'm not trying to pick on anybody. I'm just confused about that definition, because you have a commissioner that's a board of trustees, on the board of trustees for AB Tech, and then you have a commissioner that's a retired president, and there again has a building named after him, has a whole career tied to AB Tech. It seems like that may cloud, maybe just a little bit, a judgment, a fair judgment about the issue. So I guess I would like clarity on the ethical situation of conflict of interest. Thank you.
I'm going to let Mr. Frew, normally we don't do this, but I'm going to let Mr. Frew answer that one right now because you've raised it twice in our meeting.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I think I can answer that. In this context, you'd have to weigh whether or not any member of this board, or past or present or future member of the AB Tech board, has any direct financial impact or benefit from how this quarter-cent sales tax vote would go and how that money would be used. And I don't see how it could cause any conflict of interest in this regard at all.
Thank you. Are any other public comment tonight? Yes, ma'am, in the back, and then Mr. Rice will do you.
Culba from Asheville. First of all, I'm disappointed that the county and city are going to be meeting again on the same night. And on another issue of transparency, I really don't like the agendas that we get online. I think the city of Asheville does an outstanding job of transparency. They give you 200 pages a week or so. This one is just line items. I know I spoke with Donna Clark before, and she said I could come in anytime. Well, not all of us have the liberty to take time off work to come talk to people to find out what the business of the county is. From what I can tell from the consent agenda, the few lines that are given on it, it seems like it's business that's already been done. And I think that, I mean, that's fine if you want to run a Mayor Daley kind of operation, but the way most Ashevilleans would like to see their county run, or their local government, we'd like people that are responsive. We like people to positions of power that we would like to be making decisions rather than just giving a nod on something that's already gone down. And so I'm probably asking something really unreasonable, but if you could just follow the City of Asheville model more and maybe deliberate things or put them on a consent agenda so you can give them an up or down before the money is exchanged, so the public isn't just left with a bunch of line items without any idea what they are or if it was a good idea or not. Thank you.
You know, Madam Clerk, we put everything we've got online. I'm not real clear about
Exactly what you see is what is out there for the public, and you get exactly the same thing.
Okay.
If you would like more information, we can certainly add more.
Well, I think that is our policy to be transparent, so everything that could possibly be related, I think we should have on there. I agree with her. Any other public comment? Oh, Mr. Rice, I think I recognize you next. You're next, sir, if you want to talk.
Again. I think she brings up a good issue as well as the resolution today. It was not on the agenda. It was an announcement saying you were going to do one, but it was not out there where people could actually read it. Might have been more people here if it had been that way. And to me, I think having something on the agenda and you're voting on it, you should have it in print where people can read it prior to that vote. So I don't know. It seems like this AB Tech thing gets slipped under the radar every chance it gets to make it tone it down all you want to and can. Mr. Chairman, you're speaking of AB Tech being open to the public and all that. Let me tell you something. If you'd go back in history and go to the website, I'd like for you to search that website and see what you see. And I ain't talking about just recently. I'm talking about in the last 5 years, and you'll find out there ain't no transparency about it. It's only when I brought it to the attention of the Board of Trustees that things started happening, and they can talk all they want to, but it wasn't on there prior to that. Now, what I was talking about is I have notified the President and the Secretary and the Board of Trustees to notify me, just like you all do by email, that just like you do the newspaper guys and anybody else that wants to be on the mailing list, and they have not yet added me, and that's been 3 months ago. So to me, if you're going to have transparency, let's have transparency and quit trying to hide behind a curtain and call it transparency. I tell you, AB Tech is a worthwhile place and a good program for lots of people. The student rates have been raised considerably. Now here's a tax coming. Well, not only just a tax coming, the property tax of this county was not reevaluated either. And here we are with another burden on top of us. Lower the property tax about 5 to 10 cents or better, and you know, people might feel better about voting on this tax. And voting in a general election, yes, I agree, it ought to be in a general election when everyone is coming to the poll to vote, and they are informed voters. But in an off-year election, it throws people off. And I think it ought to be done in the general election, but politically, it ain't going to. But thank y'all again for putting up with me.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Any other public comment tonight?
He's coming to the podium.
Come on up.
I need to accept responsibility
Linda,
for the
you're good.
resolution not being on the agenda. It was just a miscommunication on my part. It should have been there, and it had nothing to do with any of you. I just didn't get it there.
Yes, ma'am.
I am Reverend Lisa Landis, Glow Lady, GLOLADY. You can find me in the search engine. transparency. I'm really wondering about what transparency that you're talking about. Have been requesting the BCTV budget since January, and I still haven't received it. So I'm going to talk about this paper that I did receive, okay? Also, I'm with Laura, anyhow. Why put the county and the city together unless you're trying to, let me see, choose which county, which city meeting to go to? It said that it was supposed to be on September the 6th for the next county, but then it came up on here that it was September the 13th. So I guess that was already pre-arranged. Or maybe that could be the $56,521 that the employees get for BCTV. And, you know, questioning that, there's 2 full-time permanent and 1 full-time temporary, which make $169,564, which is an increase of $7,516 in just 4 years. Wow. That's pretty good. Now, if I were to have my sponsorship for my small business that I had created at URTV, let me see, for 300 hours that would have made me about $90,000 that I did not make because I'm not going to say who, stated that these shows were garbage. Now, if we have elected officials who are leaders of this community who are telling people that it's garbage, that they are with this from the beginning, but the only nice thing that I have ever seen the board do was change the rules so we could keep the president of the board. Now, if we were supposed to raise our own money for URTV, isn't the president of the board of directors supposed to guide people in that direction? Yes, I'm getting tired of standing up here and talking about URTV. I'm getting tired of standing up here and saying, hey, it's we the people. You know, who are you the leader for? Are you for all of the people or just some of the people? Because it's very obvious that you're not for all the people. Because if you were for all the people, you would at least consider some of the words that I'm saying. You know, like when AB Tech was supposed to be a partnership over there with URTV, that would have been really, really great. You know, that would have been really cool. But that's when a bunch of slander was coming out. And it's like, you know, either you're going to get the facts or you're not. So how about if I come down and pick up the paperwork for the BCTV budget at the office instead of waiting for it to be mailed, because it's now been 8 months. So I know that you're waiting for 3 months, but I've been waiting for 8 months to see this. And I'm really wondering why it's not being given to me. Is there something in there? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Landis. Any other public comment tonight? Dr. Byrd.
Dr. Moulton Byrd. I went to the City of Asheville meetings hoping to reestablish and mediate the opportunity for public access television to get reestablished. I'm not going to be dealing with the URTV issue on this discussion in my choice. It's about public access. The PEG channel portion that is video sales tax funded that the citizens are supposed to be able to use for creating public access. When the City of Asheville put out a request for proposal and posted it in relationship to what you folks had deferred to them on public access, their public participation was only 10%. Now, it was a very interesting plan from their sustainability and the modeling they wanted for the tourism and all the good bureaucratic structuring of such a proposal. It did not at all come across as public access whatsoever. Told them so. Even the mayor was confused because she thought it was about public access in her own discussion during the meeting, and it was not. This multimedia approach does not even fall under the public access description. There may be some guidelines and directions that were similar to the original construct for public access for the dispersions of percentages and goals and objectives, which to my understanding were achieved under public access management by URTV. The point I want to come back to is that now public access television, which was constructed by the federal government through the Supreme Court all the way down to the state governments to create that as a resource for the citizens is now dead in Buncombe County in regards to public access television, as what all of that had gone through from the construction for the citizens through the 80s, the 90s to present day. People need, local citizens need public access television because it's one of our strong footprints of multimedia and local communication. It may not always be the content that's pretty and perfect and so well structured and organized because it is being done by the public, and the public is always in a learning curve, is always in an entrepreneurial development process. And yes, there were people losing jobs and TV shows there. I was one of them. But I'm not here about that issue. I'm here about the very fact that PEG channels have a portion called public access. It's now dead in the water. The responsibility for that resource for the citizens is for you to manage as leaders. I'm asking you here and now, step back, stop, look and listen to this public access TV issue and rethink it, because I believe it's an important building block for you to talk and work with the people.
Thank you, Dr. Byrd. Any of the public comment tonight? If not, we will close. Is there a motion?
Move adjournment.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bailey, second by Vice Chair Stanley. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.